I want you to think about someone for a second. Maybe it's someone you know. Maybe it's you, someone who grew up in a house where money was always tight, where the conversation at the dinner table was never about investments or portfolios. It was about bills, about making it to the end of the month. Someone who was never handed a head start, never got a trust fund, never had a parent sit them down and explain how money actually works. And yet somehow, that person decided one day to figure it out anyway, to start from zero and build something real. If any part of that story sounds familiar, if you're sitting here right now wondering whether it's actually possible to build wealth when you're starting with nothing, I want you to keep watching, because this video is for you. And what I'm going to share today might genuinely change the direction of your financial life. Let's start with the most important thing, and that is your mindset around money. I know that sounds soft, maybe even a little cliché, but stick with me for a second. Most people who struggle financially aren't struggling because they're bad with numbers or because they don't work hard enough. They're struggling because of how they think about money. A lot of us were raised with the belief that wealth is for other people, for people born into the right family, the right neighborhood, the right circumstances. And when you believe that deeply enough, you stop looking for ways to change your situation. You just accept it. The first step to building wealth from zero is rejecting that belief completely. Wealth is not a lottery you win at birth. It is a skill set. It's a set of habits and decisions that compound over time, and anyone can learn it. That shift in thinking. Wealth is for other people too. This is something I can learn and build. That is the foundation everything else is built on. Now, once you have that foundation in place, the very first practical step is getting a clear, honest picture of where you stand right now. And I mean completely honest. That means writing down every single source of income you have and every single thing you spend money on. Rent, food, subscriptions, coffee, transportation, phone bills, all of it. Most people genuinely have no idea where their money is going each month. They know their paycheck amount, but somehow at the end of the month, there's nothing left, and they can't quite explain where it went. When you actually track your spending for 30 days, most people are genuinely shocked. That daily coffee adds up. Those streaming subscriptions you forgot about add up. The random online purchases you made at midnight add up. Seeing the full picture isn't about punishing yourself or feeling guilty. It's about having information. Because you can't fix something you don't fully see. Once you can see where your money is going, the next step is creating what I call a breathing budget. And this is different from the kind of strict, miserable budget that most people give up on after 2 weeks. A breathing budget doesn't tell you that you can't enjoy your life. It just asks you to be intentional. The simplest version of this is a framework called 50 minus 30 minus 20. 50% of your take-home income goes toward needs: rent, utilities, groceries, transportation. 30% goes toward wants: eating out, entertainment, things that make life enjoyable. And 20% goes toward your future savings, paying down debt, and eventually investing. Now, if you're starting from zero, that 20% might feel impossible right now. Maybe you can only do 5%. That is completely fine. The point is to start the habit. Even saving 1,000 rupees or $20 a month is infinitely better than saving nothing. You're building a muscle, and muscles grow over time. Speaking of debt, let's talk about that, because this is something a lot of people avoid thinking about. But it matters enormously when you're trying to build wealth. Not all debt is the same. There's what people call good debt and bad debt. Good debt is borrowing money to acquire something that has the potential to grow in value or generate income over time, like a student loan that leads to a higher-paying career or a mortgage on a property that appreciates. Bad debt is borrowing money for things that lose value the moment you get them, like putting everyday expenses on a high-interest credit card and only paying the minimum each month. High-interest debt is one of the biggest wealth destroyers out there. If you're paying 20 or 25% interest on a credit card, that debt is growing faster than almost any investment you could possibly make. So before you start investing aggressively, it makes a lot of sense to pay off high-interest debt first. Think of it this way. Paying off a credit card with 20% interest is the same as earning a guaranteed 20% return on your money. That's an incredible return. Clear the expensive debt first, then redirect that money toward building wealth. The next step is building your emergency fund, and I cannot stress this enough. An emergency fund is simply a pile of money kept somewhere safe and accessible, like a regular savings account that exists for one purpose only: unexpected emergencies, medical expense, a car repair, a sudden job loss. Without an emergency fund, any unexpected expense forces you back into debt. You've been building momentum, saving and paying down debt, and then one bad month wipes all of that out. A basic emergency fund is 3 to 6 months of your essential living expenses. If your monthly essentials cost 30,000 rupees, your emergency fund target is 90,000 to 180,000 rupees. That might feel like a lot, but you build it gradually. You don't need it all at once. The point is to give yourself a financial cushion so that life's inevitable surprises don't derail your entire journey. Now here's where things start to get really interesting. Because once you've built that foundation, the awareness, the budget, the debt managed, the emergency fund in place, you are ready to start investing. And this is where wealth actually starts to compound and grow in ways that your savings account simply cannot match. The most important concept to understand here is that time is your most valuable asset as an investor, not how much money you have, not which stocks you pick. Time, because of something called compound growth, which we talked about in a previous video. Money invested early grows exponentially over decades. The longer you stay invested, the more powerful the effect becomes. So where do you actually start? For most beginners, the simplest and most effective starting point is a retirement account in the US. That's something like a 401k through your employer or a Roth IRA you open yourself. In other countries, there are equivalent tax-advantaged accounts. If your employer offers a 401k with a matching contribution, that is free money. If your employer says we'll match up to 5% of your salary, contribute at least 5%. Not taking that match is literally leaving part of your paycheck on the table. Once you're taking advantage of any employer match, the next step is investing in low-cost index funds. We've talked about index funds before, but to recap quickly, an index fund is a simple investment that mirrors the performance of a broad group of companies. It's like the top 500 companies in a country's stock market. Instead of trying to pick the right individual company, you own a tiny piece of hundreds of companies at once. It's automatic diversification with very low fees, and over long periods of time, the overall market has historically rewarded patient investors. One of the biggest psychological challenges for beginner investors is dealing with market drops. And I want to be very real with you here. The market will drop multiple times over your investing lifetime, possibly by a lot. And in those moments, everything inside you is going to scream, sell everything before it gets worse. This is the most dangerous moment for any investor. And it's the moment that separates the people who build wealth from the people who don't. When markets drop, people who panic and sell lock in their losses permanently. People who stay invested and keep contributing, who treat the downturn as a sale, as a chance to buy more at lower prices, are the ones who come out ahead when the market recovers. And historically, it has always recovered. That doesn't mean it will be quick or painless. But patience is genuinely one of the most powerful wealth-building tools you have. As your income grows over time, there's a principle that separates wealth builders from people who stay stuck in paycheck-to-paycheck cycles. And it's called avoiding lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is what happens when every time you earn more money, your spending automatically rises to match it. You get a raise and suddenly you need a bigger apartment, a newer car, fancier dinners. The raise disappears into a more expensive life, and you're no closer to financial freedom than you were before. Wealth is built by keeping your lifestyle relatively stable even as your income grows, and directing that difference, the gap between what you earn and what you spend, into investments. The wider that gap, the faster your wealth grows. This doesn't mean you can never enjoy the fruits of your hard work. It just means being intentional, creating your life slowly and deliberately, while consistently investing the difference. There's one more thing I want to touch on before we close out, and that's the idea of increasing your income. Budgeting and investing are incredibly powerful, but there's a ceiling to how much you can save on a fixed income. At some point, the most impactful thing you can do for your wealth is earn more. That might mean developing a skill that commands a higher salary in your current career. It might mean starting a small side business, freelancing, or building a skill you can sell on the side. It might mean learning about income-generating assets like dividend-paying investments or rental properties. There are many paths, and not all of them are right for everyone. But the mindset of my income is fixed is worth challenging. Because in today's world, there are more ways to generate income than at any point in history. And many of them require more creativity and effort than they do capital to start. Just to be straightforward about something important, everything I share in this video is for educational purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not personal financial advice. Everyone's situation is unique, and before making any major financial decisions, it's worth speaking to a qualified professional who can look at your specific circumstances. So let's bring it all home. Building wealth from zero is not a myth. It is not reserved for the lucky or the privileged. It is a process. It starts with changing how you think about money, getting completely honest about your current situation, building a budget you can actually live with, dealing with debt strategically, creating a safety net, and then investing consistently over time. None of these steps are glamorous. None of them will make you rich overnight. But each one compounds on the one before it, and over years and decades, the results are genuinely life-changing. You started from zero. It's not a disadvantage. It's a starting point. And every single person who has ever built something meaningful started exactly where you are right now. If this video added something to the way you think about money, a like really does help more people find this content, and I genuinely appreciate it. If you want to keep building this knowledge, subscribing means you'll always know when a new video drops. And coming up next, we're getting into the specifics of how to actually pick your first investment, step by step. No confusion, no jargon. You're going to want to see that one. I'll meet you there.